Amen, everyone chorused. By now, the sun had fully set, and darkness was slowly settling in. Dressed in black and heavy with grief, the mourners bowed their heads and began to leave one after the other. The men remained behind to cover the grave. Gabriel's cries grew louder with every shovel of earth poured onto his friend, Gamma, as they had always called him. His woman, Chantel, watched him with sorrow-filled eyes. Unable to hold himself together, Gabriel rested his head on her bosom, and she cradled him gently. She had not known Gamma well, but Gabriel often spoke of how supportive and generous he had been, especially during his school years. Suddenly, Gabriel wailed again, louder this time. Some members of the bereaved family glanced at him uneasily. One of them whispered to Chantel that perhaps witnessing the burial was too much for him and suggested she take him away. They walked deeper into the cemetery, far from prying eyes. There, Gabriel held her tightly as his sobs slowly eased. "I am sorry for your loss once again, baby," Chantel said softly, wiping the last traces of tears from his face. He nodded, though the sadness still clung to him. "I wish there was something that could cheer me up," he murmured. "Tell me," she replied gently. "I can't bear to see you this sad." "You will do anything I ask?" he pressed, and she nodded. What followed next surprised her. Almost immediately, his hands were on her breast, and he kissed her on the lips. She tried to resist, but he was insistent. When his lips were on her neck, she managed to say, "Babe, do you think this is the right place for this? Why don't we go out to the car and continue?" But Gabriel wasn't having it. "I need it now, and by the way, it will be fun to try out something new. Let's spice things up." Chantel was taken aback. Was this not the same person who was bawling his eyes out a few minutes ago? And now here he was trying to do the do. Chantel wanted to reject him, but she had promised to do anything he asked, and besides, she was already turned on from his touch, so maybe it wouldn't hurt to try something new, she thought. He looked around and found a wide gravestone where he motioned Chantel to stay, and just like that, they did it there in the cemetery. After about 20 minutes, they began to walk out, only to find that almost everyone had left. As they drove away, they spoke of trivial things, yet Gabriel's smile never left his face. Life returned to its usual rhythm until it didn't. "We are sorry, Miss Chantel," her manager said one afternoon, handing her a letter. "Due to company downsizing, we will have to let you go." Her mouth fell open in disbelief. "Why me?" she asked. "I am one of the best employees here." Her eyes drifted to Gina, someone she believed she outperformed, who looked relieved to have been retained. The injustice stung deeply. Heartbroken, Chantel returned home, distracted. She began cooking and scrolling through her phone. The next thing she knew, a bucket of cold water was splashed on her. "Do you want to kill yourself?" a neighbor shouted. "Are you on medication?" Confused, Chantel protested that she had only stepped away briefly. The neighbor pointed to the kitchen. Smoke filled the apartment. The food had burned into charcoal. Shaking, she thanked them, though she couldn't explain what had happened. Then the dreams began. She saw a middle-aged man with blood dripping from his mouth, dragging her through a narrow bush-lined path. In her waking hours, objects filled around her apartment as though pushed by unseen hands. Fear took root within her. Sensing that something was wrong, Chantel visited a prophetess who prayed for her and gave her spiritual soap and olive oil to use. But instead of improving, things worsened. When she confided in a friend, she was advised to see a Baba. Carefully, without speaking his name aloud, as tradition warned, she sent her a message. "Boss is going there. have the wooden slate on top of it. She called her boyfriend Gabriel, but he seemed too busy as he wasn't taking her calls. She traveled the next morning and got there afternoon. The place was unusually quiet and chills ran down her spine. She took a deep breath and reminded herself that she was there for answers to her problems. She knocked on the door and she heard a voice that told her to come inside. Immediately she opened the door, he shouted, "Stop!" He blew a powder on her body and said, "Something followed you." "What?" she whispered, fear creeping into her chest. She sat down and he looked at her for what felt like eternity. He asked her some questions which she answered truthfully. "You have formed a connection with something really strong," he said. "Does your boyfriend experience this as well?" "I don't think so," she replied. "He hasn't been taking my calls for days." He muttered. "I can help you if you are willing to pay." "I'll pay," Chantel pleaded. "Please, sir, I need this to stop." "You will need 200,000, he said calmly. "Then I will consult my gods." The amount stunned her. Chantel had only 300,000 in her account, and never had she imagined her life would spiral this way so quickly. She brought out 50,000 she had in cash and transferred the remaining 150,000. As the money left her account, she felt hollow. He began chanting incantations, throwing cowries to the ground and scooping them up repeatedly. "I hear you," he said, speaking to an invisible force. From a pot, he brought out 3 eggs, a large piece of white chalk, and a pot of alligator pepper, placing them before her. "Tonight," he instructed, "you will break 1 egg in front of your house. You will repeat this for the next 2 days. As you break the egg, put 3 alligator pepper in your mouth and pray. Say, 'Any spirit I have angered, forgive me and depart from me.' Then use this white chalk to mark the 4 corners of your room." Chantel listened intently and thanked him profusely before leaving. On the bus ride home, her mind was in a haze. According to what he had revealed, the spirit she and Gabriel had offended belonged to an old titled man who owned the gravestone she and Gabriel used, and he was unwilling to let her go. But why was it coming for her alone, she wondered. That question haunted her until she got home. The moment she stepped inside, she felt a strange, oppressive energy. She had never wished so bad for nightfall. As soon as darkness came, she performed the ritual. That night, she slept like a baby, and for 6 days afterwards. On the 8th day, it returned, fiercer than before. A pan flew across the room and struck her head. She cried out in pain. "Please forgive me," she sobbed. "Forgive me. I was so foolish." Before her stood a dark silhouette. Her neighbors rushed in, alarmed by her screams. She pointed frantically at the figure, but they saw nothing. "There is nothing there," they said in unison. Another slap landed on her face, unseen but painfully real. She screamed again. "Should we call your family?" one of them asked. She shook her head violently. "No, please no. I will handle this myself." Once they left, she called Gabriel. He picked up on the second ring. "Gabriel, what is going on?" she cried. "Why haven't you been taking my calls, and you haven't been calling me back? Why haven't you been coming home? What have you done to me?" There was a pause, then laughter. "I'm sorry," he said mockingly, "but it was all planned. I needed to ball like my friends. Chantel, you remember Gamma? It was all me. He flaunted his wealth in my face, and I couldn't take it. The other one was just an added step." Her heart shattered. "Say whatever you like," he continued. "No one will believe you. They will think you have gone mad. You're already a few steps away from the grave." "Why, Gabriel?" she cried. "Why me? Did I deserve this?" "Someone had to pay the price, baby," he replied coldly. "Don't worry, I will give you a befitting burial." He ended the call with a loud laugh. Chantel collapsed in tears, regret weighing heavily on her soul. The signs had been there all along. His obsession with wealth, his secretive cause, his exaggerated grief. Worst of all, she allowed him to convince her into doing what her parents had always warned against. As sorrow consumed her, the dark silhouette returned and dragged her forward towards a pit, one she could no longer escape. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Please don't forget to like, comment and share. See you in the next one. Bye.